passionate, driven, enthusiastic, euphoric. This is who we are as entrepreneurs. But how we leverage these incredible attributes to dream and build businesses that scale and grow is what this podcast is all about. Hello, I'm attorneypreneur Josh Brown, and welcome to Franchise Euphoria. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Franchise Euphoria. Josh Brown here, thrilled to be back. Well, today we are going to talk about something that is very interesting to me. You know, I've been involved in franchising and franchise law for a number of years now. And one of the things that I have realized over the years is that multi-unit franchisees tend to have more success than single unit owner operators. Now, obviously, I can't make that blanket statement across the board. There are certainly outliers and certainly sectors within the franchise space where that is not the case. But today I'm going to make the case and provide you with 4 reasons why multi-unit owners are more successful and give you kind of an idea of what that is. So if you're out there considering different franchise opportunities and different ways in which you would like to get involved in a franchise business, I think you'll want to tune in to today's episode. So what is multi-unit franchise ownership? Well, first, I need to just take a little step back and explain that there are just many different ways in which people can get involved in franchise systems. The most common type of franchise in the United States is a single unit owner operator franchise. It's a business format type franchise where the franchisor offers an opportunity for an individual or an entity to come in and buy a franchise, buy one unit. You know, the typical example would be a restaurant type unit, retail outfit, and buys a territory, has the right to run that territory for a certain number of years and under specific guidelines. And most people operate in that fashion. There's also what's known as area developer agreements where people become area developers for certain territories. There's also master franchisor agreements where you can basically get the right to develop an entire state. And so you're sort of working for the franchisor, and you're also charged with developing a whole area of franchisees. And there's multi-unit ownership, which is more aligned with what you would find with single unit ownership. It's just you are signing up to buy numerous territories as opposed to just one. And typically you're signing up to do that over a specific set period of time. So you might sign an agreement that says, okay, I'm going to open up one location in this territory now, or within 90, 120 days of signing the franchise agreement. And then over the course of the next 5 years, I'm going to develop 4 to 5 more locations within different territories, or even sometimes within the same territory. So that's an example of what multi-unit ownership is. What I'm speaking about today certainly will touch upon that when you're buying multiple units of one franchise system, but also would like to touch upon multiple unit ownership across different franchise systems. There's a trend out there for not only equity groups, but individuals who have substantial resources or have backing to diversify their investments in the franchise space through multiple systems. So rather than just buying, 5 or 6 Supercuts or Taco Bells or, you name the franchise, they might buy 5 or 6 or 10 or 15 and then also get into another sector of franchising. Maybe they get into senior care services. Maybe they get into, you name the franchise, whatever it is, but it's something different than restaurants, or even perhaps it's a different set of franchise restaurants. Well, there's many reasons why you would want to consider this if you have the resources to do so. But I'm going to give you 4 reasons why I feel like across the board, you have a better chance of success if you have multiple units as opposed to just one? The first reason is leverage. Plain and simply, if you have more units to operate, you have more leverage, not only within your own franchise system, but within the economy as a whole. I mean, every business is going to face struggles, and every franchise is going to face downturns in the economy. The fact of the matter is, if you have more than one unit, you will have a better chance. Likely, you'll have a better chance to weather the downturn, frankly, and be able to, if one particular location isn't doing as well as it was, hopefully you can offset that with another location. A second reason is costs. When you get to a certain point and you have a certain number of franchise businesses, typically, if I would generalize it, I would say 5 or more. But of course, that's not always the case. You get an advantage from a cost perspective. So your cost per unit effectively goes down. Now, sometimes that's because you get an economies of scale advantage. You start getting buying power, essentially, where you're able, with 5 locations or more, to start buying enough product that you get a break from your franchisor or from whoever you're receiving your product from. So your costs can significantly go down just by the economies of scale that you're achieving through the number of systems that you have. But additionally, your costs can go down because depending on the type of franchise you have and the number of units that you have, you can operate those more efficiently and effectively than you could if you had one person for each of those units. So in other words, I would argue that if you have a well-run multi-unit franchise system, you will be better able as one owner to operate 5 than 5 owners to operate 5. Now that may sound a little counterintuitive, but the idea is that part of what you must consider when you go to a multi-unit ownership is what kind of team you're going to have in place. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later in the podcast, but the theory is that if you can get a good team in place, you can better manage each of your locations. Number 3, the third reason why multi-unit owners are more successful is because of the risk factor. I mean, I think across the board, you spread your risk out a little bit more if you have multiple units as opposed to just one unit. Now, certainly I can hear somebody thinking, well, I mean, if I only have one unit, then I have less risk than if I have 5 units, because look at what I all invested in those 5 as opposed to 1. Well, I would sort of argue the counter to that. And I would say that if you have done your due diligence and you're in a good, solid franchise system, having more units, depending on the location, the territories, and certain other factors, will actually lower your risk. It is very, very risky to put all your eggs in one basket, no matter how good the franchise. So often, especially in the retail space, which the retail space is a large part of franchising, location is everything. And the demographic aspects of locations change, frankly. I mean, and typically with a franchise contract, when you're looking at a 10 to 15 year agreement on average, there's a significant chance that over that period of time, your demographics might change. I know one thing that we've dealt with here in Indiana, in Carmel, where I live, is it's not even the demographics that have changed. It's that there's all this construction everywhere, and they are literally redesigning the city and putting in roundabouts and new roads and expanding a lot of things. And that has fundamentally changed and impacted, frankly, the retail locations around that construction. And it's not just the construction and when it's going on, it's how they're redesigning the roads. And now the access is different to these retail locations. So I've talked to a number of franchisees who have been negatively impacted by that. I say that because that's an example of, if you just have one location and now you're locked into a long-term lease and you're locked into a long-term franchise contract, you're going to find yourself in financial difficulty when you run up against a situation like this. If you have multiple units, you have less of a chance, I would say, statistically, to have all 5 locations have those same issues. So again, I think your risk profile is lowered if you go about multi-unit ownership the right way. And number 4 is profit. Frankly, there's a big misnomer in franchising, and a lot of times, unfortunately, it's unsuspecting individuals who perhaps maybe aren't as business savvy as those who have owned a business before or who have been involved in franchising before. But typically your quote unquote mom and pop franchise owner operator that owns one type of location is really, in essence, buying a job oftentimes that requires more work, more effort, more stress. And at the end of the day, not nearly as high of profit from the business. But when you look at multiple units and you multiply the profits across a number of different franchise businesses, those numbers can start to really look attractive. And so in most instances, especially in your typical retail type franchises, having multiple units, having multiple locations, multiple businesses is going to give you an opportunity to multiply your profits. Now, there are certainly challenges that come with multi-unit ownership. I don't want to paint this picture that multi-unit ownership is just all rosy. There are certainly challenges that people face. And, as an example, not everybody is cut out for multi-unit ownership. I mean, it really takes a different set of skills to operate that type of franchise system. I think first and foremost, you have to have the ability to put a good team together. If you can't put a good team together and lead a good team and manage a good team and have good operations for that team is not going to do a good job of managing your franchise systems. And really, excuse me, when you get into multi-unit ownership, ultimately your goal should be that you're going to be managing a team that's going to be overseeing your businesses. Because really, when you get to 2 or more locations, it becomes very, very difficult as the owner to be there on a daily basis. Obviously, you can only be in one place at one time. And so it becomes very, very difficult to stay involved on the day-to-day happenings of each one of your locations. But it's important that you have somebody or multiple people that are involved and people that you trust. So it's very, very important that you put a tremendous team together to help. Well, not everybody has the set of skills to do that, nor does everybody want to do that. I mean, some people want to get into franchising, have one location, run it, be in control of it, and that's perfectly fine. But if you're looking to maximize the profit, and if you're looking to maximize the benefit of a good franchise system, you might want to consider, at least think about, do you have the set of skills? Do you have the training? Do you have the background that will put you in a good position to build a good team around you so that you and your team can then go run these systems well? I think number 2, in terms of challenges with multi-unit ownership, I mean, it's really a long-term proposition. Multi-unit ownership is not something for the short term where you're looking for a quick short-term gain. It's really something where you've got your eye on the future down the road a little bit, and you understand that there's going to be challenges and bumps along the way. I mean, first and foremost, when you're a multi-unit owner of a franchise system, you better be damn sure that you're in a good franchise. I mean, you better be very, very comfortable with your franchisor. You have to have a element of trust there. And you have to know that as you are building your team, and if you own several units within one franchise, you're going to have to work with the franchisor and also with the team that you ultimately build out, along with building out your franchisee. So it does add another level of complexity, which again takes me back to my first point of you need to really assess your skills and understand what your strengths and weaknesses are. But it's really it's really a long-term proposition. So for some people, that might be a challenge, and then that might not be what they are looking for as they get into franchising. I think number 3, and I just hinted upon it, is that you just better be sure you're with a good franchise system. I would not suggest going into multi-unit ownership with a brand new franchise system. Obviously, every system's different, and I could be proven wrong, but typically it takes time for a franchise to develop its operations. And you just want to be sure that you have a fully vetted, sophisticated, long-standing, good franchise system before you buy multiple units of it. You're tying yourself into a lot more money when you're doing it. And B, you're tying yourself into expanding over a set period of time. And if you get into your first one and you start having problems, that's likely going to create a negative domino effect for your remaining units, and possibly put you in default for not expanding as quickly as required under your contract. And number 4, as I said, which really ties into everything we've been talking about, is it's just very difficult to build a strong team. I mean, anybody who has worked for themselves or has been charged with managing a team, it's a challenge to manage personalities. It's a challenge to put people in positions where they're most likely going to succeed. Everybody brings something different to the table, so it takes a special person and a special set of skills to be able to develop a team that can help you achieve your goal. So that's a challenge with multi-unit franchising. Sometimes you get people in there who have the means to do it. They have the resources to go out and sign on with multi-unit ownership, but they get into it and they realize they don't have the leadership capability. They don't have the management capability. They don't have the ability to take themselves out of the day-to-day operations and really see the big picture. And those are all skills that are vital if you're going to get into multi-unit ownership. Well, again, hopefully this was at least something to get you thinking about multi-unit franchise ownership if you haven't already done so. I'm just scratching the surface with this episode. But again, I mean, it's really been something I've been thinking about a lot, because I see a lot of people getting into franchise systems because they think it's an easy solution. They don't even consider all the variables and all the options within franchising. And so they get themselves into a single franchise unit where they're an owner operator of one location, and they don't plan for the future, and they don't account for what is the profitability of that one location going to be. And is that going to satisfy me? Is that going to be everything I thought it would be? And again, this is something you need to think about before you buy a franchise, because you ultimately need to be thinking about what is your end goal. Why are you buying this franchise? And if you're buying it so that you can build and grow, then you really want to continue, or you really want to consider multi-unit ownership, because really that gives you a fantastic way to grow and leverage your skills, your resources, and leverage the expertise of your franchise system better than just buying a unit, owning and operating it, and hoping that in the future there will be good expansion opportunities. I mean, that's really not a great way to go about it. So hopefully this was helpful to you. If you have any questions, thoughts, feel free to reach out to me, Josh at indyfranchiselaw.com. And also, I never really mentioned this, but it does help if you like this show, if you have comments on this show or want to leave a review, please head on over to iTunes and leave a rating and review. It really helps get the show out to people. So again, thank you for being great listeners. I always love hearing feedback and get consistent feedback from people. So look forward to hearing that. And until the next time, happy franchising.
Thanks for being with us today on the Franchise Euphoria podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to go to iTunes and provide a review. Also, please remember that although Josh Brown is a licensed and practicing attorney, Nothing contained in this podcast should be construed as legal advice, because it is not. The information contained in this podcast is general and educational in nature, and none of it should be relied upon as legal advice. That being said, if you have questions for Josh and would like to contact him, please email him at josh@franchiseeuphoria.com. Thank you so much for listening, and we hope you tune in to our next weekly episode.